Hello, I'm very excited about our upcoming performances of The Damnation of Faust, the imaginative and vividly colorful dramatic work by Hector Berlioz. I think virtually everyone knows the basic story of Faust, his decision to sell his soul to the devil in return for achieving that which is otherwise unattainable. That very phrase, selling your soul to the devil, has become commonly used to describe difficult and often morally charged decisions. It is truly a universal story that continues to resonate today, affecting us collectively and as individuals. The story of Dr. Faustus, scholar, philosopher, alchemist, has its roots in tales told in the Middle Ages. It first appeared in print in an anonymous German text in 1587. Shortly thereafter, in the early 1600s, Christopher Marlowe wrote The Tragical History of Dr. Faustus. Of course, the most widely known and influential version of the story was written by the iconic German poet Johann Wolfgang von Goethe in two parts, Part 1, published in 1806, and Part 2, 26 years later, in 1832. The story of Faust has served as inspiration for numerous retellings since, from authors Thomas Mann, Oscar Wilde, and Louisa May Alcott, among others, to more recent plays by Václav Havel and David Mamet. It has served as a basis for films like The Devil and Daniel Webster, Wall Street, and Little Shop of Horrors. In music, there have been John Adams' opera Dr. Atomic, Stravinsky's L'Histoire du Soldat, and Charlie Daniels' The Devil Went Down to Georgia. There is even a video game, Faust, The 7 Games of the Soul. But let's get back to Berlioz and Goethe. In some respects, this ancient legend led to a life's work for each of them. As a young boy, Goethe saw puppet plays depicting the characters of Faust, Mephistopheles, and Margaret. He wrote later in life that seeing those plays planted the seeds for his later masterpiece. Berlioz first read Goethe's work, in French translation, when he was 23, and over 20 years later, finally brought to fruition this magnificent musical conception. Shortly after first reading Faust, Berlioz wrote a collection of short musical vignettes titled collectively 8 Scenes from Faust. It was his very first published work, his Opus 1. He shortly thereafter became disenchanted with it, and in a somewhat capricious act, as he was often prone to, he tried to recall and destroy all the copies that had been distributed. Fortunately for us, he was unsuccessful, and a few survived. We are now able to trace some of those early ideas that he later incorporated into this larger Damnation of Faust. Berlioz adapted the text himself, and by doing so, created a slightly different telling of Goethe's story, choosing only certain episodes, and allowing for Faust's downfall to be the result of Margarita's ascent to heaven, leading to the truly heavenly music of the final scene. He also adapted the text in such a way as to present insight into the internal minds and souls of the characters, rather than creating a simple narration of the story. When combined with his talent for depicting emotion, character, and drama in music, he created a truly unique form of composition. You can understand why he wrestled with how to describe it. He finally invented the term dramatic legend to convey the breadth of his conception. You may see it today performed as an opera, with staging, costumes, and lighting, but Berlioz did not intend that. Personally, I strongly believe that to stage it deprives us of fully appreciating the ability Berlioz has to ignite our own internal imagination, to create a vivid and compelling opera in our own head. Let's consider a couple of examples that illustrate this. As Mephistopheles and the chorus of sylphs gradually lull Faust to sleep so that he can dream of Margarita and fall in love, we hear the dance of the sylphs. It is music that so perfectly conveys the lightness and ephemeral nature of the sylphs that I can't imagine any human performers being able to do that on stage. Je suis content de vous. Perçu, perçu, son sommeil enchanté. At the opposite end of the sonic spectrum, for the moment that Faust is dragged down to hell by Mephistopheles, Berlioz writes this music. Berlioz even titles this scene Pandemonium, an apt title, don't you think? And finally, perhaps the most famous excerpt from the piece, the Hungarian March. In addition to being the dramatic musical depiction of an army approaching, it illustrates Berlioz's sense of orchestral mastery. Actually, this music also says something about Berlioz's sense of practicality and popularity. When Berlioz decides to place Faust on the plains of Hungary at the beginning of the whole piece, which has no basis from Goethe whatsoever, it is purely to be able to incorporate this stirring and exciting march that had been a huge hit at his recent concerts in Budapest. In addition to the specific characters portrayed by the soloists, Faust, Mephistopheles, Margarita, Brander, and the full range of the expressive and dramatic orchestral music, it is probably the chorus that has the biggest challenge and greatest fun. In the course of the piece, they get to be peasants, soldiers, students, drinkers, sylphs, will-o'-the-wisp, princes of the darkness in the underworld, and finally, angelic celestial spirits. So, ultimately, why is this story so endlessly fascinating to us? These temptations are tantalizing, and in each of our own lives, we are faced with very real and serious choices. I think that through the eyes, ears, and imagination of Berlioz, we can again find ourselves drawn into and swept away by these elemental emotions and fundamental questions of morality and humanity. I look forward to welcoming all of you to our performances of this extraordinary masterpiece, featuring stupendous soloists, our magnificent Richmond Symphony, and the combined Richmond Symphony and Virginia Symphony choruses. You won't want to miss it.